Unresolved trauma is rampant today, and that has led to a special group of healers, trauma recovery coaches. And today we are going to hear about the story of doctor turned trauma recovery coach. Jing Lian is a leading expert in the field of complex childhood trauma. After battling her own journey with mental health, depression, anxiety, and a traumatic background, she knows firsthand how important mental health is. She then, in her own brilliant, excellent style, trained under leaders like Dr. David Burns, Dr. Daniel Amen, and many others in this field of work. And she is here to share with us her journey and some amazing tips and advice if you are someone who is struggling with complex childhood trauma. So, welcome, Jing.
Thank you, Dr. Shaunna.
It is so good to see you. I absolutely have the utmost respect for you. Your story is, well, quite compelling. Tell everybody a little bit about your background, your story, and what led you really from China to Canada to do this work, and that is so powerful and meaningful. You came by it the hard way, but tell us a little bit about your story.
Sure. Growing up in China, I experienced myself like several rock bottom moments that shaped my life. So
Mhm.
one of the most defining was when I was in grade five, my parents left me behind with an abusive teacher who constantly mistreated me. Isolated and depressed, I wrote my parents a desperate letter asking to come home. That
Yeah.
was my first encounter with depression as a child.
And did you get to come home or no? You had to stay.
Yes, I did.
Okay, well that's yeah.
They they brought me out right away. So, and then later when I was in medical school, I searched for love in all the wrong places. So
Hmm.
I was drawn to a man who reminded me of my distant perfectionist father. I got into a toxic relationship with my ex-husband, who
Hmm.
was emotionally and physically abusive.
Hmm.
So during this time, I had two abortions, one of which he refused to accompany me to, claiming he didn't want to be seen with me. So that was very traumatic.
Yeah, yeah. And it's sort of it seems like there was a series of these things in your um early years. And so how did you go from that traumatic, rock bottom as it were? The person that I know now that is before me now is a completely different transformed person who has just really excellence in how you can work with people and work them through. I think it is because of your own personal journey and having to go through it the hard way, and you learn things. What led you to um, go from really from being an obs-gynae doctor to do this work? Obviously, that was the fertile ground. How did you go then to seek out people like Dr. David Burns and Dr. Daniel Amen and so on? Like, what led you to do that? Was that your own personal, still healing your personal self? Was it healing clients or a bit of both?
Right. So I kind of hit the rock bottom. So after I moved to Canada back
Mhm.
in 2001 to be with my ex-husband, his abuse worsened.
Oh,
So I just worked like tirelessly to please him, but it was never enough. So my physical health deteriorated. I developed psoriasis, my mental health spiraled. So at my lowest point in my life, I was
yeah,
very suicidal. So
yeah,
then a call from my father changed everything. My father told me that I could always come home, and he cried and showing me love that I have never felt in years. So I realized that if my earthly father could love me that much, how much more my heavenly father must love me. So from that moment, I just decided to take control of my life. So I
yes,
left the abuse, started my healing journey, and learned to love and care for myself. And I built healthy boundaries, surrounding myself with safe people, and began empowering other women with similar struggles. So I started to kind of prepare for my psychiatry residency application and
okay,
looking at the opportunity to learn from the world, the best psychiatrists in the world, like you said, Dr. David Burns,
Yes.
Dr. Daniel Amen, and Dr. James Greenblatt, and Judy Crane, one of the best trauma therapists in the States. So that's, where it started.
Yeah. Yeah. So I really like your, dedication to excellence. And so it was really for, both yourself and then that your own journey inspired you to say, hey, I really want to dive in deeper with mental health. And it makes sense if you're going to learn it, learn from the best and, and be the best, which speaks to the amazing results that you do get with the people that you work with. Well, who are the people that you work with now? Who is it that you are especially passionate about helping?
Yeah, so I help Chinese business women heal from complex childhood trauma, empowering them to overcome depression, anxiety, and stress so they can thrive personally and professionally. It's just because we as women, we're the wives and mothers and daughters and
Hmm.
caregivers, and it's just so important. Like we're like the hub, like basically
Yes.
the backbone of the family and the society.
Yeah, and if you heal the mother, then there's a ripple effect. They touch so many lives. One of the clients that I work with, she in a roundabout way is helping the criminal justice system by helping menopausal moms because she saw that if we can get to the root cause of helping these people early, and we install those healthy habits and nutrition and all of these things, they grow up to be people that are healthy and thriving and law-abiding citizens, etc. And so it's in a roundabout way. So really, again, she saw that as well. And so if in your particular case, these Chinese female entrepreneurs, they are unique. It's who you are, so you know them, you know their unique struggles, and they are there's not a lot of support for them,
Right.
for women in particular. And then you add on another layer of Chinese women entrepreneurs, then there's another layer of lack of support, and there tends to be some trauma that's in there. A lot of I mentioned at the beginning that trauma is rampant, but people might not necessarily know that or recognize that. And
Right.
what would you say are some of the signs that people might have? Like, how would you know if you have unresolved complex trauma? This was something that I found fascinating listening to you.
Right. So a lot of people, including myself, right, being a OB/GYN doctor, when we talk about trauma, we always think of those big horrific event, right?
Yeah,
Earthquake or car accident or, the war or even like rape, right?
yeah.
That just like one aspect of the trauma, which we call that big trauma,
Hmm.
right? But the other aspect, like we call that small trauma, which is neglect, right? Like go back to like every child has a birthright that we need to be seen, to be heard, to be understood, to be loved unconditionally, and also know that I'm important and I belong. And also we're like, well protected and
Yeah.
guided when we're growing up. But if that didn't happen, by our primary caregivers, which usually are our parents, right? So we call that neglect, which is small trauma. So
Hmm.
that's like had profound, like a negative effect on our mind and body and spirit. So if you're saying like there are like only 10 something symptoms of mental kind of health symptoms for like a big trauma. There are like 60 something symptoms like for like a small trauma, right? Like, symptoms like including like, self-sabotaging and depression, anxiety, was not able to cope with the stress. It's like walking on the eggshell. It's like including like a lot of autoimmune disease too, right?
Hmm.
So you just name a few, a lot of challenging like a personality disorder, eating disorder, even like ADHD can be caused by childhood complex trauma.
Yeah, and I think as people are listening to this, they're like, maybe starting to recognize themselves in that. And maybe their trauma was obvious. Maybe it's obvious to everybody that they had a traumatic childhood. But I think maybe not so obvious, and maybe not so when we get to the root of things, early on, there is some unresolved trauma, and then there's just that ripple effect. And I think, and the thing is, a lot of our parents, they were also traumatized. Our teachers, our people in power, they were also traumatized. And so, they say hurt people hurt people. And then it starts to become a little bit generational trauma. And so it just layers and layers and layers of trauma. And like, no wonder anxiety and depression and self-sabotage and all of these things are rampant, and it makes the work that you do so important. I think a lot of people don't even know that you exist, and they should know that you exist. It's one of the reasons we have this and this whole field of a unique, I work with health coaches, but this is like a unique type of coaching. And what I really love is when health coaches take their unique expertise, either professionally, personally, and then package into something, and then be the world's leading expert in your unique area of expertise. And I think it's just helpful to bring awareness of it, even in and of itself. What is something that you'd say that you've learned in working with your clients in that have trauma?
Um, Totally agree with you. Like what you said is so true. Like definitely awareness is the first step, right? So it's very sad to say, but like I work in mental health field, right? Like you could see like quite a few mental health professionals when they're looking at people's all kinds of symptoms, they would label them as all kinds of disease and diagnosis, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And if we have this trauma-informed, trauma-trained perspective, we would look at people, ER frequent flyers and, all that challenging situation, instead of saying, what's wrong with you? We would say, what happened to you? That you are like in survival mode, right?
mm,
So it's hard to see like a person being labeled like with different diagnoses, but really when you look at the deeper, like their childhood story, you could see the childhood complex trauma affect them like, profoundly when they're like adults, even like when they're seniors.
yeah, yeah. When as I hear your story, and then I hear what you're doing, what I see, there's a thread of love through the whole thing. Your father, with a small f and a capital F, father's love for you that allowed your healing, and then having compassion and love for that person who is in pain and hurting, and saying, okay, what happened to you, and really getting more to the root cause of that. It's so profound. What would you say is, you work with women to heal their complex childhood trauma. How would you say that your approach might be different than some other type of therapy, or just health coaching alone, for example? What would you say is maybe unique in what you do?
Right. Because I train with so many like world experts, so I kind of, use it like as like kind of like doing like a integrated way, right? Everyone is unique. We
Yeah.
all have our own story, right? Even like, the twins in the family with the same parents, their coping is very different and their
Yes.
stress response is very different, right? So I've been training with, Dr. David Burns with a CBT, the team therapy, which is very powerful. But like we have to do a very good assessment to be able to understand the person, their life story, their journey, their uniqueness, and that we're able to offer them, like we prioritize, like what they need. And then we kind of help them like with the approach and the tools and technique that really fit them. So it's not never to be like a cookie cutter.
Yeah, yeah, so important to really customize everything, and
Exactly.
making sure that that is, because there's one size does not fit all, uh,
Exactly.
and yeah, really important, again, to customize that. I think that's so important. If there's somebody struggling out there with complex childhood trauma, or they think, or they're having some of the symptoms that you kind of were mentioning before, um, you know anything that you would like to share with them? We'll let people know in a moment, like how they can get in touch with you. But anything that you'd like to just share with them as a message of either hope or a tip or anything like that?
Yeah, I'll just use my own kind of story or my failure to kind of share with people, and hopefully I can help like Chinese entrepreneurs to just kind of have the first step toward the healing is that please like don't hide it, right?
Yeah,
Try to hide everything and try to show people that I have it all together, but I was falling apart inside of myself, right? Like had
hmm,
all those years like suffering for nothing, right? So as you said, like the awareness is the first step, right? And there are like books that we can read about childhood complex trauma to educate about myself and yourself, but the first important thing is just to start the conversation, right? Like
yeah,
have a professional who has been trained with childhood complex trauma to just start at the assessment and get the professional help. I mean, definitely you can help yourself, but you need to look at like, how much time you're going to spend, what are you going to study, and then with the professional help, it's always kind of efficient and more effective.
right, right. Whenever we work with somebody with one problem and we get to the root cause, one of my favorite questions to ask people is, because when you're working with people with one thing, and it's at the root, then there's going to be these spin-off benefits. And I know you deliver profound results with the deep work that you do. Can you share an example or two, like of somebody that you've worked with, and like what were some of the benefits that came from that? Like, give people an example of what's possible, because a lot of times these things are decades old and we kind of think we're stuck with it and this is just who we are, and you've proven that is not true. That's not the case. There is hope. There are things that you can do. It may not be the natural default setting, but you can rewire that. So share an example that maybe where that, if you can think of one just off the top, just to kind of give people an example of what's possible.
For sure. So with the Chinese culture, with our own unique like childhood complex trauma, one of the symptoms is high achiever, right? Like we
Mhm,
just evaluate ourselves and other people according to their outlook and also according to their performance, like very
mhm,
status based, right?
mhm, mhm.
So we also have a lot of tiger mom and tiger dad, right? So I have this couple and came in and tell me like just the reason we came in to see you to get the help is because our son, who is 21 years old, and he didn't talk with us for like half a year. And also like he didn't go to school, he didn't work, and he just kind of stay at home and playing game. And also he was very violent with us, and it just like calling 911 one after another, right?
Yikes.
So
Yes.
basically, blame the son for being the problem, not grateful. They have a company, very successful business, right? So we started with that and then realized that the way, the parents, their own childhood complex trauma affect their being and also their communication with their son, right? And the way how they resolve the conflict and all that. So I started to help them to realize that maybe the problem is not just the son, but maybe we can change in,
Right.
effective communication and all that, right? So they started to change because they were kind of at the end of their rope, right? And then after 3 months, their sons started to have better communication with them because they changed, the parents changed. And
Mhm.
then now he's, working at their company. They have this, kind of harmonious relationship, adult son with the parents, and it just the parents are dealing with their own childhood trauma and they're getting healthier and their marriage is getting healthier, so it's like you said, it's like a ripple effect.
It's so good. It's so important, the depth and the waves of improvement. I mean, they got their family back. It really is. I mean, they didn't. It was kind of shattering and and violent, but to the point that it gets like 911. It's
Yeah.
serious. It's not. Yes, it's a kid in the room on gaming, but it's not just that. No, this is like a
Right.
whole other level. And so to see that turnaround is magnificent. And I know you have many stories of people that you've worked with that it's deeply and profound. What have you liked best about doing this work in trauma recovery? Because it also is. Uh, well, I'm going to call it soul satisfying, but it's painful. It's not like giddy happy work, but it's I would say probably satisfying for you to do. It kind of gives meaning to all of that pain that you had to go through. It's what I say alchemizing pain into purpose. You're a classic example of that. Yeah. So what would you say is that you like best about this?
Definitely it's hard work. I'm not like hiding it, right? But I truly believe like, living our life and also have this healing for each one of us. Like there are two main goals, right? One is live out our true self, and the other one is to have meaning connection, with myself, with God, and with each other, right? That just like so meaningful because we're relational. It's not about money, it's not about work and all that. So, because myself, I've been through this, from surviving to thriving,
Yeah.
and our Chinese culture, this is such a like a big taboo, and we don't talk about that, right? We
Yeah.
try to hide it, we try to show people we have it all together, but so many people and family, they're suffering, right?
Yeah.
So I know it is hard work, but I'm thinking, if I can help one person at a time, and if we started the awareness and we started the conversation, and then one day the big mountain is going to collapse, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, so important. If you are listening and if you're a coach and you're like, man, I want to do this deep soul satisfying work. I might not be a trauma recovery coach, but I'm wondering what is my niche. I will put a link to Free to Heal and feel free to grab a copy of this. In the comments below. But also, if you are struggling with complex childhood trauma, or you're even wondering if you are, and you're like, hey, or maybe you know someone who is, and like that family, the parents, reaching out to get help for their son. Jing, how can people get in touch with you?
So I have a website, jingliantraumarecovery.ca. And also I'm on Instagram, Jinglian, which is my first and last name, Jinglian. So you can find me there too.
Awesome. So, Jing Lian, Jinglian, traumarecovery.ca. And
Correct.
then Jing Lian, is there 82 at the end of Instagram or no?
Yes.
Jinglian82 on Instagram. Excellent way to do that. I really want to commend you for the powerful work that you're doing. And for people who might be wanting to like figure out like, how do I find my niche? I'm going to put a video here below or above somewhere here about how to find your expert niche. And it really is, I'm going to say, soul satisfying when you're doing work that you love. And the people that really benefit are those that you serve. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for you. Actually living into your purpose, alchemizing your pain into purpose. It does help with your own healing from my personal experience as well. Like being able to help others is also a healing. And so I just want to thank you so much for being here and sharing your time with us today.
And also, I want to thank you, Dr. Shauna, for being such a great mentor and role model and help so many health coaches to, kind of have the 6, 7 figure business and which it just amazing. Like I'm just so grateful for you and your team and your great work.
My absolute pleasure. My mission is to help this world be a healthier, happier place. We've got our map here, and each of those little gold dots is a coach that I've seen in person. There's more, but I haven't seen them in person. Who is like spreading that light, that ripple effect, and helping people. So we help people vicariously and helping them set up so that they can, having the infrastructure, the systems, and the tools and the strategy so that they can do their meaningful work. Like I can't do what you do. I haven't lived your life. I can't I'm not a trauma recovery coach. I can't do it, but you can, and it's what you're meant to do. And now I know why I had such a hard time myself personally creating my health coaching practice myself when I left being a doctor to a health coach. And because that was my painful journey, which was really painful. And so, but I learned all of the things not to do and what works and what really doesn't work. And so that is my calling. That who knew that was going to be it? Who knew that's why I went into medicine and all of that to be able to have this ripple effect. So thank you so much, Jing, and I very much appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you too.
Awesome. Well, enjoy the next video. And with that, have a fantastic week. And of course, be good for you.